How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about the Steam Deck, and it finally happened. It was warm yesterday. I got to sit in the backyard by the bonfire and play my Steam Deck. I'm back on Fallout 4. I don't know what got me in the Fallout mood, but man, so good playing that game on a Steam Deck outside in the backyard. Now it's cold and rainy, so hopefully summer starts soon. It's June, so I don't know what's going on. But let's get back on track here. In today's video, I've got 3 topics to cover, starting out with I installed SteamOS 3.7.8 on my ROG Ally X, and it was not a good experience. After that, we're going to talk about the great new upgrade Proton Experimental just got. And finally, let's talk about why in the near future the DualSense is going to become the best Steam Deck controller. So yeah, SteamOS 3.7.8 has been out for around a week now, or a little bit longer by the time you're seeing this video. And I think it's pretty good. I saw the Reddit threads where people were saying all these things about don't install it. I've had 0 issues on multiple Steam Decks. I installed it on my refurbished OLED. It runs fine. I installed it on my limited edition OLED. It also runs fine. The biggest issue I had is that I had to reconnect my Wi-Fi. I don't think that's that big of a deal. And then Bluetooth said it was on, but it was off. So I toggled the switch and everything was fine. I also installed the firmware on my dock. It did not break the dock. I don't know why that happened to like one person on Reddit, but it seems like it's actually working with the dock. And this is the first update I've ever done with the dock where I didn't have to unplug everything. So in my experience, I think the update was pretty good. But of course, the biggest new thing that came out with this is the ability to install it on other handhelds because they shipped it alongside the Legion Go S. Now they say specifically for the original Legion Go and the ROG Ally, they don't specify the ROG Ally X, but the issues I'm having, I verified are prevalent on the regular ROG Ally as well. So hopefully they do a quick update to fix this. But even though the whole process only took 10 minutes, I've had a lot of issues. So the first big issue I'm having is very bad. It's that controls just stop working after around 2 to 3 minutes. And I tried starting up a game to see if that would kickstart them into gear. No, it just disconnects the ROG Ally's controller from the Steam Deck. Now, the weird thing is I've seen some YouTube videos where some people, it shows in the controller testing screen that they have a Steam controller connected, but mine shows a DualSense when I have the ROG Ally connected. I don't really know what the difference is. I tried switching to the beta channel and that didn't fix anything. And then people were saying that the preview channel will fix the issue. But when I switch to preview and restart the ROG Ally X, it just goes back to the regular beta. It will not give itself the preview build. I tried enabling developer mode because that's what I've done in the past. It just doesn't work. So I don't know what the issue is, but it seems like my only recourse is to wait for a hotfix because I went through about 5 different YouTube videos and Reddit threads that were like, this is a guaranteed fix. Shocker, none of them work. So I can't use controls on my ROG Ally X. I was in a Discord asking if anyone ran into this issue and some guy was like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal. Just use a controller. So just defeat the entire purpose of using a handheld, I guess. It's kind of frustrating on the surface, but it's not Valve's fault. They did not say that this device was supported. I just wish it worked because I want to see how it runs so I can put that thing back in a drawer and not touch it for a few more months. But yeah, another interesting layer about all of this is that there's a lot of people who are now paying attention to SteamOS because it performs so much better than Windows, and they're picking out one line in the new FAQ section that says it should not be considered as a desktop replacement. So like if you replace Windows 11 with SteamOS, you shouldn't consider SteamOS to be your default desktop operating system. I think that's like a legal thing or just like a covering their ass kind of thing in case they have to do an update that wipes your files, or you know, the operating system breaks and then you have to re-image it so you lose your files. Like, I understand it from that perspective, but if you look at other tweets that they put out, it's of course cherry picking because they also say they are working on broadening support to other devices. So eventually I think the goal is for it to be a desktop operating system replacement, but in the current state that it's in right now, where it's untested on so many different platforms outside of the Steam Deck and the Legion Go S, of course they're not going to go out of their way to say go ahead and install it on anything. It's going to be a perfect experience, right? Like, you shouldn't, if you only have one PC and you're running your entire life on it, like you're doing your banking, you're doing your work, you're doing your gaming, no, you should not install SteamOS as your replacement operating system unless you're willing to go through a few issues in the process. Like, I don't know why every time SteamOS gets an upgrade, the people who don't pay attention to the Steam Deck 95% of the year come out of the woodwork to just complain about it and act like it sucks. Like, that's how you know SteamOS is heading in the right direction, because it's scaring the Xbox people, it's scaring the PlayStation people, it's scaring the Nintendo people. They see that PC is a growing platform, and now that Windows is not the massive barrier that it has been for basically the entire time that PC gaming has been a thing, of course they're getting scared because I mean, the value proposition is insane. Not only are you going to be able to build any PC you want and run games at any settings you want, you can transfer your saves without doing anything between your ROG Ally, your Steam Deck, your Steam machine, even your Windows PC. Like, no matter what device you have, whether it's a Mac, a Windows PC, a Linux PC, or a handheld, as long as it has Steam, you have access to pretty much your entire library and all of your saves, not only right now, but forever into the future. And on top of that, games are just much cheaper to get on Steam than they are on other platforms. So I can see why, if you're a diehard console fanboy, that would be pretty scary to see happen right in front of your eyes. I think when it's all said and done, I'm just going to flip the ROG Ally X back to Windows. I like the utility of having two devices, one that runs SteamOS with the Steam Deck, that's my golden child, my baby, my thing that I love playing on all the time, and then having a backup handheld that's for games that just don't work on the Steam Deck, like GTA Enhanced Online. Can't play that on the Steam Deck, but I can at least transfer my save over from the Steam Deck for story mode and play that on the ROG Ally X. And then Forza Horizon 4 and 5, they just simply run better on the ROG Ally. You can get a 60 FPS experience, and in a racing game, I like 60 FPS versus 40 just because, you know, you have to react fast, especially when you're driving supercars, because it's like Twitch reactions that, you know, the input latency and just general frame time make a big difference. So if I can get 60 FPS on the ROG Ally, I'll probably play Forza Horizon there. And because I want to use my Moza wheel, I have to use the Windows Store edition of Forza Horizon 4 specifically. You can't use the Moza wheel with the Steam version because Xbox locks that stuff down for some reason. So I need to use the progress from that version on a handheld. And I'm not playing a cloud version of Forza Horizon 5, dude. Like, I'm not playing a cloud version of anything. I don't like cloud streaming, but playing a racing game over the cloud, I think would be preferable maybe to being in a saw trap, and that's about it. So yeah, overall, I haven't had a great experience with SteamOS on my ROG Ally X, but I don't really care because my main SteamOS device is my Steam Deck. So it's like here nor there. I just thought it'd be fun to try it out for a couple of days, and it was a big headache. But yeah, I mentioned I've been playing Fallout 4, and I'm happy to report that it's going to get a lot easier thanks to a new Proton experimental update that's going to make navigating game launchers a lot easier. Now, I'm not talking about something like EA Play or Ubi Play or the Epic Game Store or something like that, you know, a screen that pops up that you launch a game from. I'm talking about like when you play Skyrim or Fallout 4 and then it opens up a launcher and then you can change your settings from there and launch the game. You can't really do that natively out of the box anymore with either of those games, but it's really easy to enable them on the Steam Deck, and you should do that because it's the only way to change graphical settings. All you have to do is go to the launch options like on the Steam Deck and then put in Steam Deck = 0 space %, command %, and then it'll trick the Steam Deck into thinking you're playing on a PC, then you'll get the launcher before the game starts. But if you use Mod Organizer 2, you can also do it that way, which is what I'm doing. But having a launcher like that is a huge pain point because you have to use the mouse, which means you have to hold the Steam button and use the right trackpad as the mouse and then use the right trigger to click. And it's just inelegant, right? You can use the touchscreen, but it's never scaled correctly, so it's hard to hit those little buttons with the touchscreen. But with this new Proton experimental update, it's basically adding Steam controller support to all these different launchers, no matter where you're playing them from too, which is awesome. So like in my scenario, when I start up Fallout 4 and Mod Organizer 2 starts up as the launcher for the game, I'll be able to move around that window with the controller. It'll highlight the different boxes and then I'll be able to use it that way instead of holding the Steam button and using the trackpad, which is much more preferable because I've done a YouTube short about how you activate the touchpad in any screen on the Steam Deck by holding the Steam button and then using the trackpad, and people were like blown away. So a lot of people don't even know you can do that, and those are like hardcore Steam Deck users. So making it easy to use the controller instead obviously is a great thing across the board. From what I can tell, it looks like the games are going to have to be added to Proton Experimental individually by Valve, but it seems like they just look at what people are playing on the Steam Deck and then add those games in to get their Proton updates pretty quick, I will say. So if there is a game with a launcher like Fallout 4 or Skyrim that shows up in the top 100 games consistently, those are the ones that are going to get prioritized support. So hopefully it doesn't take too long for Experimental to get support for those games, because I checked before I record this video video, and I had to use the cursor and mod organizer too, which is obviously not optimal. So yeah, it's cool that they're really focusing on this because I'd say it's one of the most long-standing issues in the past 3 years of using the Steam Deck. It's just one more thing that they can do that's very easy, but changes the overall quality of life on the Steam Deck in a major way. And now that SteamOS is getting out there to more devices and more people are using it, that's exactly what you want. But speaking of SteamOS getting better in the future, I think there's an update coming that's going to make the DualSense the default controller for the Steam Deck, at least until the Steam Controller 2 comes out. And that's because a new driver update to the Linux kernel is going to allow the audio jack to be used on the DualSense. So if you don't know, one of the biggest upgrades that the Xbox One and the PS4 got was that their controllers had headphone jacks. So if you had a wired headset, you could plug it directly into the controller and it would beam the audio directly from the console to the controller and then into your headphones. And using that has been a nightmare on PC, both on Windows and on Linux for a long time. They brought that feature forward for the Series X and the PS5, and I've tried it on my DualSense Edge on my Windows PC and it never really works correctly. And when I looked into it, you needed a third-party tool, but there was a recent driver update on Linux that activates the aux port on the DualSense controller. So if you had your DualSense connected to your Steam Deck, you'd be able to plug in wired headphones and use them with a controller. The big drawback is, of course, it's a new update on Linux, so it has to be flagged by Valve to be added into a kernel upgrade on the Linux version that the Steam Deck is using. But if it's a feature that's going to be good for gaming, Valve is usually pretty on top of that. So I don't think we'll have to wait long for it to be added. I love the DualSense. I think it's pretty much the best controller ever, especially when games support the haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. If you've never used one, you can get them pretty cheap used, and I think it's worth picking one up for your regular PC or just using on your Steam Deck when you have it with a kickstand or in a dock or in a stand, because it's just a great controller. And playing games like Resident Evil 3 or Resident Evil 2 Remake or Resident Evil 4 Remake or Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil 7, it just feels better on a PlayStation controller. I don't know why that is. It's just something I've noticed and I think is a factual thing to say. So yeah, I think in the future, until we get the Steam Controller 2, a lot of people who haven't used the DualSense might want to look into it, or if you've got one laying around, you might want to try this out. So hopefully we don't have to wait long for this update to come to the Steam Deck. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in today's video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.